Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for a hating on Alpha 2 video because what would this channel be without hating on Alpha 2 every few months, right? But I think this is interesting, right? And I always talk about how Alpha 2 is one of the biggest fairy tale rose tinted glasses games of all time. It makes no sense. Oh, yeah, remember if you like the videos, though. Like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you can. Appreciate, thanks, super chat, PayPal, whatever. So I just want you to watch this, right? And this shows you how starved that the Street Fighter community was, right? How in need they were, so desperate to make anything seem impressive, even if it wasn't, right? So let's listen to this. Let's make sure the volume's working. Oh God, I don't know if you'll be able to hear because the microphone is such shit, but fuck, can we move it like this? Will the microphone pick the
3-2. I remember being upset about that, but I was like, okay, whatever. So then we made it to grand finals, and so yeah, now this is the match I think that people were kind of expecting, and so and he'll kind of talk about it. He unleashed his secret weapon.
What he's talking about is actually happened in winners finals. Okay, in winners finals, he was a bit frustrated because he didn't know what was hitting him. He was standing, and I saved it for later. For later matches. Again, I saved that shit for nationals. All right, so there's a proximity card glitch, which is named the Valle CC at the time, where if you're standing within like sweep range of an opponent and you activate custom, you won't be able to block in time if you start with a low, right? So I started hitting with crouching hard kick into.
Again, my microphone is such complete trash lately. This is a glitch, apparently, that no one had ever seen before. This is such fucking nonsense. And I say this as somebody that, and I've said this before, even when I made those Mike Watson videos, I'm not saying that I think Watson is better than Valle or Choi or anything. And if anything, I actually enjoy watching Valle, Choi, and everybody. Valle plays Turbo Ryu color. Mike, you would be my favorite, but you don't play Turbo Ryu. That's why I couldn't say that you're better than Valle. But, this is why I say, though, the Valle CC, the fact that the Valle CC has actual wiki articles dedicated to it is such complete nonsense. And it shows that Street Fighter was just on life support at the time because it's absolutely retarded. Okay, so why don't we actually look at something? Because, oh my God, imagine this. It sounds so stupid how anyone believes this, or maybe, it's such a fairy tale. Let's remember, even in games before that, let's say Alpha 1, do people not remember? Guess what? If I do a super and you're not blocking, especially some supers that rush supers, guess what? You get hit. You can't block after the super flash, correct? Even if we go to Alpha 2. Oh shit, I'm not blocking before the super flash. Do you need to see it again? I'm not blocking for, oh my God, I got hit. So wait a second. Let's remember this too. In Alpha 2, you can see Ryu going into the block animation. But Alpha 2, we have supers that hit low like Sakura. So guess what? Even though I'm already going into the blocking animation, guess what? I can't block it low. So it actually stands to reason that even me as a kid was like, oh yeah, well, if you do a CC, guess what? You probably can't block it low if you're not already blocking low. Oh, guess what? Oh yeah, I got hit. This is why I say the Valle CC is absolutely nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And I was watching this interview they did, and like, yeah, I saved that shit for nationals. Like, no one had ever thought that. It's a glitch. No one had ever imagined that you could do this. And it's like, it's the game. What are you talking about? Even in Alpha 1. If you weren't blocking before a super flash and it was in range to hit you with the first hit, you were hit. Same thing as Alpha 2. Alpha 2, not even talking about custom combos. Guess what? You have supers like Sakura's, she goes low. It stands to reason that if someone does a custom combo and they start with the low and you're not blocking beforehand, no shit, you get hit. That's why I say a lot of respect for Valle and Choi and all that kind of stuff. That's why I'm not trying to get into who is the greatest player, the greatest quotation marks, OG or something like that. And, I've never met Tomo, so I can't, it feels disingenuous to even mention him kind of. But of course, obviously I read a lot about him as a kid as well, about him and Watson. And, when I talk about those, I always say that I'm not trying to get into who is the most skilled of the OGs whatsoever like that, but I always say that you should give respect to like guys like Watson because of their importance in the legacy, because ultimately we're all in some shape or form standing on top of these dudes, right? So again, I'm not trying to talk shit about, who's the best skill player, but when I talk about Watson, I think you got to give him credit for his importance, right? Because everyone is connected to him, at least American-wise, a little bit. But when I see stuff like Valle get credit for this, and that's me, I enjoyed watching Valle play. I enjoy watching Choi play. You have to understand, if you know anything about video games, if you know anything about fighting games, if you can honestly tell me you think there should be wiki articles dedicated to the Valle CC. Valle, how many years is this after Alpha 2? Oh my God, Alpha 2 is Alpha 2 96 or 97? Can someone correct me if I'm wrong? God, I was very young when it came out. But even Kid Clayton was like, oh yeah, I mean, if you do a CC, you can't block because it's a super. No shit. So if you do low, you're not already blocking, you get hit. So I just see this interview, and I don't know if it's something like, it just shows how on life support the fighting game community was, or either, or it makes you look very disingenuous, like, oh, hey, it was a glitch. So all supers were a glitch before too, because it was like that before, that you couldn't block in Alpha 1. Is Sakura's super a glitch? Because you couldn't block it before? No, I know there's other properties of alpha counters and stuff like that. We're not getting that deep into it. But when you think about the Valle CC, you're just like, oh, you do a low. Okay. It just is so stupid. And I've said this so many times before. Alpha 2 is a complete fucking fairy tale in the narrative of how it plays and how it works and the lure of it. Like, are people not old enough that weren't around or don't know enough about fighting games? Like, still, oh, it's a glitch. It's a glitch. Like, are we actually talking about the glitch properties of like being able to juggle and weird properties if the guy gets hit after, blah, 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 that kind of thing? That's not even how they talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, he hit low. And then you just see people talking about this, and Choi's like, man, I didn't know what was going on. So then I was like, wait, you can't block it low? So then I did it too. And you just think about this and like, oh my God. You know, it almost makes you think like, wow, these guys are extremely skilled players, but are extremely retarded. Was the community that dumb that no one up to this point had ever tried that? They didn't realize it. Even Kid Clayton knew that. It's just so stupid and weird. And, of course, I have my own itch to scratch, is because if you think about me tech-wise, oh my God, I've done so much tech, people didn't even think it's real. People still try to recreate the tech that I've done in how many games now? People use tasks to even try to recreate the stuff I've done. And that's not even getting into so much tech that was supposedly impossible that I was doing, is actually now just foundational knowledge of how fighting games work. But of course, I didn't even know at the time of games like Alpha 2 that I didn't know that I could talk about games, you know what I mean? But certainly there was definitely weird shit that I knew. And say Alpha 1, of course, Alpha 1, I know weird shit that I'd never seen anyone do, that I had never read in a magazine or something like that. But the Valle CC is just something, so it's like, that's just how the game works. And I've said this before, Alpha 2, nobody, quotation marks, nobody played it when I was a kid. People hated it, right? And God, once you got to Street Fighter 3, you couldn't even pay people to play Street Fighter. That's how unpopular Street Fighter was when Street Fighter 3 came out. You couldn't even pay people to play Street Fighter 3. My God. That's why I thought, I told the story before, when Alpha 3 came out, I didn't even know there was an Alpha 3. Just literally, I saw it was like, wait, there's a PlayStation game of Alpha 3? There was an Alpha 3? Because I literally thought that Alpha 2 had killed Street Fighter. Now, I say this again, remember, I think Alpha 2 is a very cool game. It's got a cool music. It's got a cool, aesthetically, it's very aesthetically pleasing. But gameplay wise, it's complete shit. And the way that people talk about it, it's a complete fairy tale. And it's also funny too, because, you can dissect and, Alpha 2. Oh my God. We've already showed how many people from Alpha 2 run from me, yet they love the game and they're supposedly intellectuals. You know, I always just think, you know, there's this argument that Alpha 2 is the greatest footsie game ever. And people talk about, oh, Super Turbo sucks because supers have too much of an influence on the match. Or, oh, Alpha 1 supers were too fast and you couldn't block them before. And it's like, so why do you like Alpha 2 then? Supers were too fast. Supers had too much of an influence on the match in Super Turbo. And it wasn't real Street Fighter anymore. So you think custom combos don't count as a super, quotation marks? Oh, Alpha 1, you know, supers, you couldn't block them. Okay, so you can't block Alpha 1, or you can't block custom combos in Alpha 2 if you do them right next to them. And they're more versatile than a super in Alpha 1. And they do more damage. And even if they were to get blocked, they do block damage. And unlike Alpha 1, where supers have specific uses, custom combos in Alpha 2, they cover every angle. They can be your anti-air. They can be your regular shit, right? It's just like, so why do you like Alpha 2? Like, it's so brain rot cringy listening to people talk about Alpha 2. And I see this interview, and like I said, I have a lot of respect for Valle and Choi. I enjoy watching them play when I was younger. But it just such a propaganda interview, and it shows that people don't know what the fuck they're talking about when they talk about video games, and it's like painful. It's painful. And I think, again, entire wiki articles dedicated to just how the game works that you should have been able to tell within 5 seconds. It's really, really weird, dude. Anyway, remember if you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share, support the channel if you can. Appreciate it. Thanks. The end.